All in Sports Network. We love sports.
It is Thursday, November 6th, here on your Daily Fix for all things Texas Longhorns. I'm Tanner Carlson. That is Jake Jimerson, and this is All In Horns presented to you by Rogue Sports Network. Jake, it is the bye week this week, and so we're going to have a little bit, we're going to give ourselves a bye week, which means we're taking just Saturday off in terms of recording an episode on Saturday. Going to enjoy the weekend best we can. Get some things done with the families, things like that. And so we got to start this podcast off, though, just real briefly. Jake, kudos to you. Flu game over the last couple of episodes that we've done, especially the immediate reaction episode last night. Kudos to you. You had what? A
102.
102 fever. So flu game, essentially a Michael Jordan type performance.
Yeah, I don't remember half of. I woke up this morning. It's like I don't even remember what we talked about, and I think I spaced out a few times on things you said. But hey, we got it out there. That's why I was. I told you. I think I said it off air. I don't know. It's all a blur. I was grotesquely sweating everywhere.
Yeah.
During it, very uncomfortable.
It didn't show. So you kept the sweat off your face, Leonard Fournette style.
Yeah, there we go. It was not off of my back or anywhere else.
Yeah.
But slept a very long time last night. And now on Wednesday, starting to feel better. Just a really, really nasty sinus infection, but battling through it, not running a fever currently, I don't think. So hopefully it'd be a little more coherent.
Broke the fever over your slumber last night. So, but Jake, bye week. Let's go ahead, kind of jump into some things that we'd like to see this team kind of tweak out a little bit. Hell of a performance again against Vanderbilt. It's garnered them a top 12 ranking in the most recent College Football Committee playoff polls, which is the one that now counts. And so right there on the bubble as the first team out of the college football playoffs. Now, there are still teams that need to play one another that are within that top 12. So there's still going to be a lot of shifting. That's by far no means, going to be close to the projected, final bracket or final rankings going into the playoffs. So Texas still very much alive in this thing, very much on the cusp of having, one of those seasons where it's like, how did they end up in this spot? And then, we see them playing in the quarterfinals or something along those lines, which would just be incredible based on where they started this season. Jake, some bye week tweaks that you'd like to see. I think for me, and I'm not going to steal it from you, so I'm going to leave you that low hanging fruit because I have a feeling I know where you're going to go. But for me, I'd like to see a little bit better communication defensively in the secondary. And I know Michael Taft coming back is going to be a big deal. Having Jelani McDonald healthy, having his status, a little bit up in the air, but having him being able to play would be helpful. But just Michael Taft kind of running the show in the secondary would be helpful. A lot of breakdowns and coverage, especially in that Vanderbilt. And then, just a little bit more sound defensively, just open field tackles, things of that nature. Again, they played a great first three quarters, finishing the game strong. And then obviously what you saw against Mississippi State, them being able to put up the amount of points and the amount of yards that they put up. It's not just been a solid 2-week performance for the Longhorns defense. I'd really like to see those communication and those kind of busted coverage flaws be sorted out, especially going against Georgia on the road in Athens between the hedges. You're going to have to be a sound, and communication is going to have to be top notch if you're going to want to have success in that hostile environment, which is now a night game, 6:30 kickoff.
Yeah. And Georgia's offense has been explosive this year. Obviously, they've won them 2 of their games where their defense didn't particularly show up in Ole Miss and Tennessee. So when they've needed to score, Georgia's just what Georgia always is under Kirby Smart, but this year even more so because they've typically relied more on the defense. This year they've truly been a team that's been able to win every way. But they've also looked very vulnerable. They have dropped a game to Alabama at home. kind of wish they just won that because I think they're like 45-1 at home
Yeah,
in their
some
last like
insane record.
46 games. It's something like that.
Under Kirby Smart, I think he's only lost like 1 or 2 home games. Yeah.
It's not many. And so you know, I'm curious to see how this defense will come out and play because I think they had played 3 really good quarters, and then that fourth quarter was horrible. And then they didn't really play great against Mississippi State, and I still don't think they played that good against Kentucky. And so I hope this defense is coming out like they did against Vanderbilt. I thought they came out with a chip on their shoulder against Vanderbilt and played like they were pissed off about the performance against Mississippi State. I think PK also didn't help them in the fourth quarter, but you could tell McDonald was out. Also, Muhammad, he wasn't out because they were sitting him. He was out because he got a little banged up in the game. So they were without, you know, like four of their key secondary guys. And so that makes it a little more understandable. Some of those things were happening in the fourth, but still uncharacteristic of what you would expect from what the Longhorns defense has been. So I'm excited to see how they come out. McDonald, this bye week's at a perfect time. I think we know Taft's going to be back.
Yeah.
I believe Sark said he's pretty confident McDonald would get through concussion protocol and be back. And then I think Muhammad is fine. So hopefully they'll be fully healthy on the back end, because if the secondary can hold up well, the pass rush has really been starting to show out. They lead the nation in sacks. Remember when everyone was freaking out about sacks? You and I weren't? Yeah.
Yep.
And
30,
and freaking out.
34 sacks as a team, which is number 1 in the country, not tied with anyone. That's a solo spot.
I think Vanderbilt had given up like 10 sacks total on the year and then gave up 6 in this game.
Yeah.
So they're not. It's not just sacks against Sam Houston and stuff there. In fact, they had lower sack amounts in a lot of those games because they were playing so vanilla. That's really started to come up here. You know, even the Mississippi State game, they had a bunch of sacks. That was probably the biggest thing they did well in that game. And so that'll be a key. Get Georgia behind the chains, making Stockton. Even though Stockton's been able to beat people with his arm, I still think that's the best formula you can do against Georgia.
What this team cannot afford to do against Georgia is allow Gunnar Stockton to run around with his legs, because I don't think people have realized this, but he's actually been very efficient running the football, especially kind of within that 25 to 30-yard range, kind of approaching the red zone. He's been electric near the goal line and getting rushing touchdowns for this Georgia offense. And so his added specialty of being able to run and scramble around, whereas you didn't really see that from the Stetson Bennett's of the world, the Carson Becks of the world, but you do have it here with Stockton. He adds that extra ability to run the ball, where if you forget that he can run it, he will make you pay with his legs. And so you're going to have to maybe not respect it as much as you did a Diego Pavia, but you are going to have to respect it and have a spy, at least keeping an eye on him whenever he's trying to extend the play.
Yeah, they learned about it. Luckily, Texas has seen Stockton more than most people had seen Stockton going into this season from the SEC. Obviously played against them quite a bit last year in that SEC championship game. And so they'll be very aware of his running ability. They handle running quarterbacks well. Especially ones that aren't just, I mean, we really haven't seen him play a burner other than, I mean, Marcel Reed's really fast, and obviously they did a really, really good job of that last year. Also Green, but that's all last year. We haven't seen that this year, but Stockton's more of that Pavia style of running. And so I feel confident they'll have a good game plan on that going in. I want to see if they can stop Georgia from running it downhill, because that hurt them a lot last year on defense. Georgia had more success running in the power run game against this Texas defense than I think just about anyone did. Kind of going back to what your original question about what I want to see during the bye week, you knew what mine was going to be, but you have your 5 now on the offensive line. We know this. There's no doubt about it, in my opinion, that this is the best 5. Yep. I thought it after like week 2 or 3.
Are you getting any type of compensation? Did you fill out a W-9 or anything like that for PK?
Listen, or for Kyle Flood.
Sorry.
Look, all I'm asking for is just like $50K. It's not, it doesn't even have to be, I'm not even asking for that much. Like
that's not even that's not even a year's salary.
That's like a base amount like walk-on lineman gets.
Yeah.
And so I'll send him my PayPal information, but yeah, use this. this is a great time to have them practice and just practice their communication up front. Cole Hudson moving to guard. Cole Hudson had the best game of season was him at guard.
Yep.
And Robertson is a serviceable center. I don't think he's crazy good or anything, or just like he's not Jake Majors, but he is a serviceable center. And now the offensive line feels serviceable to decent, like maybe
Average
with potential to be above. They were above average in that Vanderbilt game.
They're middle of the road in the SEC.
Yeah, they played like an upper middle of the road offensive line against Vanderbilt, because Vanderbilt's defense has been good this year. And they had one? Did they have one sack, or was it 0? I know they only had like 3 or 4 pressures. I mean,
I believe they had 0 sacks and 1 tackle for loss.
Yeah, you're right. 0 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and not many pressures. It wasn't like the OU game where there was only 2 or 3 sacks, but there was like 24 pressures or something like that. This game was very low disruption in general. And Georgia's defensive front is not as good as it was last year, for sure. It's still Georgia, though.
It's still a
Kirby
Georgia
Smart.
front 7.
He's going to have a game plan for it. Luckily, not everyone's going to be picking Texas, I don't think, though I do think a lot of people will be, just because Texas is going to be carrying this momentum from the Vanderbilt game. So hopefully Kirby Smart doesn't have as much bulletin material as he did last year going into the regular season matchup. And also for the offense, I want to see them keep doing 11 personnel. Sark, that was the heaviest game of 11 personnel from Sarkisian this year. And I think that is spreading it out is what suits this offense best. Their tight ends are just too young. They're not quite ready to be having 2-3 tight ends out there at a time. The blocking is just not good enough from them, and you just allow teams to kind of load up the box, and then that hurts the offensive line in turn. I want to see them continue with the spread game and trying to get the ball to their playmakers in space, and then that hopefully opening up some of the more downfield throws.
Worst case scenario is that Mississippi State pulls off the upset at home this week against Georgia. That would be worst case scenario. Cannot let that happen. Georgia
needs to win by 30. I want Georgia to just win comfortably, so there's no we got to be bet. No, there's just no. I don't want.
I'd rather them be too high on
Kirby
themselves
Smart.
coming into this game. Yeah.
In fact, I hope it's like 60-0. I mean, I hope they demolish them, because
I want them to feel as good about themselves as
Kirby
possible.
Smart, if he has any material to use, man, Georgia's just scary. They're hard to beat. If you're not Alabama, if you're not Alabama in the SEC, you haven't really beat Georgia with Kirby Smart.
Not with Kirby Smart. Yeah.
That's the thing about Kirby Smart's Georgia is they just don't lose to anyone other than Alabama in the SEC.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
It's impressive how consistent they are, and it's not something that we're seeing much in this NIL era. Now, they haven't been able to put back the title runs, but still, Texas has a very large task in front of them.
And Georgia will always be a playoff team that can make a run to a national championship no matter what. Let's hear from Underdog. We'll give our all-in horns entry of the week when we come back. Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right, and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code HORNS to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code HORNS. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog, make picks. Win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games. 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. All right, Jake, this is the all-in horns entry of the week, and I've got Luka Doncic taking on the San Antonio Spurs on Wednesday night. So this is that time of recording, lower than 35.5 points. He's averaging 40 points a game, which is just that's an absurd number. So I'm betting on him hitting his below average performance tonight. But the only saving grace, the only reason why I felt somewhat comfortable with it, a little bit comfortable with it, is because Wemby's on the other side, and maybe he can kind of deter him away from the paint a little bit. Uh-oh, we got man down, man down. But yeah, we got Luka Doncic lower than 35.5. And then I also have on Sunday, which will be the last pick. So our first pick and then our last pick, Jackson Smith and Jigba higher than 95.5 receiving yards against the Arizona Cardinals.
I was turning to grab something and my chair hit my desk where my webcam, it's like mounted in front of me, and it just slammed it.
Yeah.
I went with Ahmad Hardy higher than half a rushing receiving touchdown. Surely Missouri's going to be handing him the ball a bunch in this game, having a true freshman quarterback starting. You'd have to imagine they're going to try to get Hardy the ball both through the air and on the ground to have success on the offensive end, try to shorten the game, shorten the possessions. Then I took a page out of your book with Fernando Mendoza, higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Feel against Penn State. You have to feel like, Indiana just, we talked about the other night, I think, Signetti just likes to pile it on.
Yeah.
And so I feel like 1.5 passing touchdowns for a guy that's in the Heisman race, a guy that probably should be leading the Heisman race, at least since the quarterback is the only one who's going to win it this year for some reason. So yeah, I like Fernando Mendoza to go higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Hopefully we can hit on one of these because we've both been doing well on our personal ones, but the all-in horns, we haven't been able to, we've been just one short until last week where we both fumbled.
Yeah, that last week we're gonna just say that was our bye week. This week we're locked and loaded.
Last week was our safe one. That's concerning.
That's what was kind of the more concerning thing, was our safest entry that we had entered was last week, and we were the furthest from hitting on that one than we have any other week. So, all right, but there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Please go ahead. You can't steal the Luka one because that's a Wednesday night game. So, but again, I liked it. Gonna go with it, and we'll give you an update and how that went. So, all right, Jake, I wanted to throw out a quick scenario here. And it is wild. It's a crazy SEC scenario that could play out if everything falls in the right pieces. Now, it probably has a less than 1% chance of actually playing out, but it could play out. There is a possibility that 7 teams in the SEC finish with an overall record of 10-2, with a conference record of 6-2 or 7-1. Now, this would result in a Texas-Alabama SEC championship game, by the way. And so it would be Oklahoma 10-2, Alabama 10-2, Georgia, Texas, Vanderbilt, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss all finishing 10-2. Now, for that to happen, Texas obviously would have to win out, and Texas would have to beat Georgia and A&M, and they had already beaten Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, meaning they've beaten 4 of the teams that are finished their season 10-2. But yeah, weak schedule for Texas, by the way, in this scenario. But yeah, it would be 2 teams with a conference record of 7-1. It would be Alabama and it would be Texas, and that would be your SEC championship game.
Yeah, that doesn't seem that likely.
No, not at all.
I think the only team who has a chance to beat A&M on that schedule is Texas. I mean, if Perdue was playing for Mizzou, I would feel a little differently, but it is A&M. It is November, and they typically find a way to choke it out. But the fact they have Samford on the schedule this month helps them out quite a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But yeah, I'm not too worried about scenarios right now. Texas has got to find a way to beat Georgia, and if they don't beat Georgia, they got to find a way to win those last 2, because there's a lot of analytics and percentages being done out there that show Texas would have about as good of a shot as anyone if they go 9-3. The craziest scenario is they beat Georgia and A&M and lose to Arkansas. Like, what does the committee do with that? Texas would have 4 top 10 wins.
Yeah, yeah, but they'd still have Notre Dame ranked ahead of them.
Oh yeah, Notre Dame could lose to Syracuse, and they'd be like, well, they had that win against Pitt on the road.
They did
It was
lose to
ranked.
A&M, which Texas in that scenario would have
Yeah.
beaten A&M. But you know.
Yeah, I don't trust the committee when it comes to Notre Dame, at least. Especially
no,
after seeing the collusion with Pitt.
that is a crazy scenario, and that is a perfect sleeper look ahead spot with Arkansas being right there after Georgia. Say you come away with a big win, and then you're like, all right, cool, we've got Arkansas at home, A&M at home, and you just look ahead to Texas A&M in that situation, and Arkansas comes up and could basically ruin your entire season. Because quite frankly, I don't think a 3-loss. Again, it all depends on what other teams do in these final 4 weeks. Yeah, 4 weeks of the regular season, and so a lot could happen in terms of the top 12. A lot could happen with teams that are, a Georgia Tech, a Virginia, teams with 1 loss, and Iowa could end up making some noise if they beat Oregon this week, and then Oregon drops out. What do you do with Iowa in that instance? There's a lot of scenarios still left to play out, just in terms of the entire country, not just in the SEC. And there's still a lot that could possibly happen in the SEC as well. So very much looking forward to seeing how all this plays out. Should be really fun. But I just thought somebody brought that up and I was like, wow, that's actually completely true. Looking at the schedules, if 7 SEC teams finish 10-2 this season.
Yeah, there's some wild because just the way the SEC has worked out, and I like that we've seen the next 3 years of schedules. It feels on paper. We don't know how teams will be. That's beyond their control. But at least on paper, it feels like schedules are more balanced. It feels like they actually took that into the thought process. Because last year and this year, there's just been a heavy imbalance and it'd be kind of the perfect way for this year to end for some crazy scenario like that to happen.
Yeah.
You just consider how much imbalance there is in SEC scheduling.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap up the episode. So, Jake, tomorrow's episode of the week, and then we're just basically going to go through games that we like. We're going to give you some lines. We're going to talk about some of these games going around the country. It won't be real heavy Longhorn talk with them on the bye week. And then, we'll also kind of start keeping an eye on basketball and things of other sports going on, volleyball, things like that as well. So we'll try to give you an update on as much as we possibly can. But yeah, we're just going to give some lines for the upcoming week 11. And we'll see you tomorrow. Please like, share, and subscribe. As always, ladies and gentlemen, hook 'em.
All in Sports Network. We love sports.